Hello, everyone, and welcome to another scene for Darkness in Dublin, the Werewolf venue. In this scene, we have Petra. She is going to be checked on by her mentor slash friend. But go ahead and tell me what Petra is doing and where she is right now.
Well, Petra is back at home after spending good uh, a good day on set with some of the Fury kinfolk, and essentially exercising, getting a lay of the land, getting to know this new set as best she can, as this place is likely to be home for the foreseeable future. Um, she's been getting to know some of the locals. She's only met a handful of Garu at this point, so it's mostly been kin that she's been interacting with. But suffice it to say, she has been finding the adjustment period not as taxing as she thought it might be. And to that end, she's currently back at the house, having gone through and cleaned it again, though it was probably not in need of cleaning, and is currently in the middle of refolding bedspreads and fresh linens that she has washed.
That's hilarious. Um, so yeah, Lita comes home. She's been out probably doing a little bit of the same type of thing that Petra has been doing, like getting a feel for the city and the sept itself and training and things like that, as she is in a rune and likes to stay in shape. Um, but she comes in and she sees Petra folding linens that she swore were already folded. And she just kind of looks at her with that same look that's on her overlay.
They weren't creased the right way.
Oh, okay. Why does that matter?
I mean, if you want to live like a savage, she picks up the laundry and or the folded linens and drops them into the hamper with kind of a humph.
She shrugs. They're just sheets, but I was going to ask you how you're doing, but judging by what you're doing right now, I guess you're a little stressed. Everything okay?
I mean, what would give you such an idea?
She quirks an eyebrow. Take a break. She plops down on the couch and pats it, the seat next to her.
Takes in a deep breath and then just lets it out slowly. And will carry yourself over and sit down next to Lita.
She rests her chin on her fist with her elbow on her thigh and looks at Petra. Talk to me.
About what?
whatever is bothering you.
I mean, I don't know if anything's really bothering me. Just, you know, making sure everything is in tip-top shape here. Making sure everything's clean. Making sure that. And she takes her thumb up to her mouth and begins to chew on her cuticle.
She nods.
Making sure that there's nothing that anybody's missed since we moved in here that, may or may not be something placed here to keep an eye on people.
Mm. You're worried that we're being watched.
Just because you can't find any proof of it doesn't mean that you're wrong.
I'm not saying that you're wrong. Maybe we should get the help of the glasswalkers to make sure.
Do you trust them?
I have no reason not to.
Them walking around with their cell phones and their little listening devices.
There's one that seems to be a bit more on the less tech side, but is still knowledgeable. That makes sense.
The hard thing about cockroaches is once they get into your house and infest it, it's almost impossible to get rid of them. And she stands up pretty quickly and begins to pat around on bare feet on the hardwood floor, and begins to straighten some of the mutual decorations and accoutrement around the flat that they've decorated with.
She nods and just kind of watches her for a minute, letting her do her thing.
It only takes her a little bit because she gets really self-conscious when other people are watching. She has a certain degree of self-awareness.
Which is good.
Yeah. So she kind of goes from like the end table and kind of straightens a picture and sort of adjusts the lamp shades that way the design is facing outwards, and she goes up to like the in-wall entertainment center and just makes sure that all the DVDs and whatnot are even in an alphabetical order for probably the third time that day. She steps back, takes a breath in, and lets it out.
Well, why don't we talk about some of the stuff that's going on around the city? What do you know so far?
Not much. I haven't really had a reason to leave Sept yet, and I don't want to. I don't want to venture out too far until I have a good feel for our surroundings.
Out of character, just so you know, their place would be off Sept. Nobody lives on Sept except for the warder and
Not far off Sept.
a couple other. They could probably have a place in between Sept and the city. Probably just outside the national park that the Sept is on. So yeah, they probably have a small house with a little bit of land. That would probably suit Lita better anyway.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, she'll nod. But it is important to know what's going on, even if you're not actively exploring.
I'll get there. It just how long did it take me to settle back in Greece?
Mm, a little while, yeah. She nods.
And this whole survivor bit, trying to sneak through the Reich, almost it feels like business. Trying to keep our heads down and whatnot. It's just
You know that trying to lay low, keep your head down, that kind of attitude lets them control you and win, right? You need to not only survive, but thrive. Make them regret the way that they treated you, that they lost out on an amazing member of their tribe. And we gained a very valuable person.
you, you, you did. Um, but I've heard horror stories about how relentless they can be. I don't
And
want.
you don't think that you wouldn't be protected.
It's not. That's what I'm more worried about. It's bad enough I got Danica dragged into this. I don't need other people getting their heads set on the chopping block because people don't know how to adapt or act or accept.
She like kind of narrows her eyes a little bit and almost growls at that. Like, there's a one thing Petra would know. One thing Lita really, really can't stand is the mistreatment of kinfolk.
Mm-hmm. Petra is just like sensing the rumble. Not really, not even by like sound, but just that
The
feel.
energy, yeah, the energy that she's radiating, like her rage bubbling just a little bit.
Petra's hair bristles ever so slightly.
Yep. She takes a very deep breath.
Listen, if we're gonna go out and spar again, I'm not ready for that.
That makes her chuckle a little bit. That's fair. I I just mm, I don't know. I don't want you to go your entire life having to look over your shoulder.
Well, unless you know of a way to get the ear of the Silver King, I don't see a certain family member's claim going away anytime soon.
Well, we are in the treehouse of no fangs allowed, so probably not.
Yeah, but
But that's one reason why we came here, because they're not allowed here.
doesn't take much for them to justify gathering up the Get and whoever else will rally to their cause.
She, at the mention of the Get, the Black Furies, the Get offenders, for the audience, do not have a very good history. It's pretty sordid, and Lita especially has had bad run-ins with the Get offenders, and she has a special hatred for them. So her demeanor returns back to that just absolute fucking not totally raging like she, but it's just like, she returns to the demeanor that she had before, and maybe just a little bit intensified.
Well, being a ragabash and perhaps acting on instinct rather than intelligence, she instinctively grabs into the laundry basket and tosses a blanket out over Lita. And as she does it, she shouts out, "Lavender scented bad oils, or lavender scented detergent."
Lavender scented detergent. um, Lita wasn't expecting getting the blanket tossed over her, so she thrashes around for a minute, and then she kind of does smell the lavender, and then she just takes it, she can see her just kind of grab the blanket on the inside and just press it to her face and inhale violently. Fine, I will try to calm down with this. Eventually, after probably a minute, she will fling the blanket off of herself and cross her arms and huff. Why do we have to mention them? Why?
Because they follow the Falcon's lead, and you know it.
Fucking heathens, a lot of them.
You can't hate every single one of them.
Yes, I can.
There's got to be at least one or two that you've met that are halfway decent.
Nope. Mm-mm. She shakes her head. Not even kinfolk.
Would you seriously condemn the entire width and breadth of a tribe and their blood based on...
Look, I'm not saying that they should be wiped off the face of the earth, because they are decent warriors for Gaia. However, I am allowed to hate every single one of them, and I don't have to speak to them.
You don't have to speak to them, but you don't have to hate every single one of them.
It gives her a skeptical look. When I meet one that's worth their salt, then I'll change my mind.
Have you ever...
I heard DiD name is Salts the Earth for a reason.
Yeah, I know. Still from behind the corner of the hallway, she's just kind of peeking her head out. She just goes, I don't want to be that ragabash, but you're generalizing. Do you really want to be the Fury that's accused of generalizing?
She growls.
There's a audible she ducks behind the corner.
I will keep my opinion to myself publicly, at least. She does not sound very happy about it. But she realizes that The tiny Ragabash is right. She won't say it in as many words, but that is as good as it gets.
There's a sound of Petra making the circuit the long way around through the dining room, the kitchen, to come back into the living room. Aren't you glad that of all the people you could help smuggle across Europe, it was the new moon that won your heart?
She actually softens a little bit at that. Actually, yes.
She comes up to the edge of the couch, the back side of it, and sort of rolls over the back of the couch. So she kind of got like her shoulders splayed across Lita's lap, looking up at her with a smirk.
She gives a genuine smile down to her. Honestly, I don't know what I would do without you.
I imagine it would involve more punching.
Probably. I lived outside for a time before I learned to control my rage as much as I have, because I kept destroying houses.
I've heard a tale or two in hush tones when you're
Sure
not
you have. I'm sure you have.
I haven't hit anybody for saying, when I've mentioned that I'm living with you and they're like, oh, you poor thing. I haven't hit anybody. But I've thought about hitting them.
She nods in approval. At least I'm as much as see, there's a confliction in my head right now. Like, part of me wishes you had, but I'm glad that you didn't, because then you probably would have gotten in trouble, because most of them were probably a lot higher rank.
A lot higher rank, a lot stronger. There's a reason I use a bow.
She grits her teeth a little bit and nods. And that's why I have my trusty sword. Sometimes claws just don't do it. Just so that you know, Petra would know her sword is it is a version of the Labrys of Ismene. It's a sword version of it. And it essentially, out of character, it looks exactly like the God Killer sword in Wonder Woman.
Oh, God.
That is Lita's sword. It does a lot of damage.
And not looking at it all covetously.
Yeah, nope. And she would know that she got that from her mother when she completed her rite of passage.
It's always nice to have an Adrian full moon to hide behind.
And it's nice to have a sassy young new moon to keep me in check.
Like a perfect symbiosis.
She smiles and pets her head, not like condescendingly. It was a very genuine, loving touch. For real, though, you should get caught up on events going on around here. I did hear something about some Banes infesting the city. That can't be good.
Go on.
blood veins to be exact, which definitely isn't good. And one lupus cub was rescued from people that were she tries to think for a minute because she only half heard the glasswalker that told her about this. uh People who were kidnapping particularly wolves and doing some sort of experiments on them. I have no idea what. I they went into some technical jargon and I stopped paying attention.
Does it have anything to do with the scruffy looking lupus cub? I think someone named her Pounce.
Yes, that one. She nods. Do you already know about it?
I mean, I've met the person.
She nods. That's cool. Has she said anything about what's going on, what had been going on yet? She may not remember much, especially if she was in her wolf mind, which I believe she was because she hadn't changed yet.
No. I think she's still adjusting to the life beyond instinct.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Mentored a few lupus in my time. Interesting.
I am sure that given time, she'll bring it up, but are we worried about more of the feral kinfolk being poached upon?
Well, here in Ireland, there aren't any. Um, Outside of ones that have been brought with, but there aren't very many of those either. They may try to recapture the ones that were rescued with Pounce, so we might want to keep an eye on that. Other than that, I haven't heard a whole lot about it. I think they managed to move on. Some of them were killed. It's definitely worth something keeping. It's definitely worth keeping an ear out about, just in case they happen to come back through here.
Well, if I hear anything, I'll make sure to report it, of course.
She nods. And then she gets like a little bit of a smirk on her face. I have taken inventory of the various Garu in positions on Sept, and it appears that they lack a worm foe.
Listen, I just got here and.
Not you, me.
Oh! Totally
You,
said that.
she
There's just that smirk on her face.
she just shakes her head like, bitch. She doesn't say that, but that's like she hates it when Petra gets her like that.
Mm-hmm. And she like closes her eyes to shake her head. She waits until she's almost done shaking, and then Lita will feel the boop. She knows that's a button.
Yeah. She like wrinkles her nose and shakes her head. Ah.
What about the others in this city?
Well, truth be told, I haven't ventured much into the city itself either. I've mostly hung around Septon or the area between that we're in. I don't like being in cities, but if I'm going to make you explore it, I suppose I need to as well.
Well, if you don't want anybody to call you a hypocrite or anything.
Mm-hmm. I know. I used to hate when my mother would say, "Do as I say, not as I do." I vowed not to be like that. So she nods. From what I understand, most sept activities take place in the city anyway, not on the sept itself. The only things that happen on the sept itself are moots and um, briefings on missions and things like that. And if anyone is injured and their injury might be a veil breach, they can remain on sept for a short period of time. And I believe any metis that their deformities might happen to be a veil breach are allowed to stay on sept too, but she like does it looks like that she's thinking for a moment. But most metis when they're in Hamid, even some of the more severe deformities I've seen, hasn't been anything that I would consider a veil breach. I'm not a Philodox, though. She just shakes her head like whatever.
At the mention of Metis, there's just sort of a cringe that kind of comes over Petra's face as she sits up.
She raises her eyebrow a little bit.
She doesn't elaborate on it. She just kind of has that look on her face like she's somewhat uncomfortable about the topic.
Yeah. Anyway, so I guess we have to get used to being in the city. She makes her own face at that.
Well, we're both nothing if not adaptable.
This is true. We've certainly adapted to our shared situations.
What? Something I've not. You, I didn't say anything about it, but, why have you taken me in?
Because whether you think so or not, I feel like I see a lot of me in you. Some of the things that we've had to endure, come to terms with, while they may not be the same, the emotional toll is similar.
If anybody else had said that, I'd get angry over being a pity case, but I know you better than that.
It's not pity. It's just, I think that some of the things that have happened to us that we've gone through, there's not a lot of people that we can talk to that can understand even remotely what it's like. So we relate to each other in a way that I don't think we could relate to anybody else. And I want to make sure that you succeed. And you may be the closest thing to a child I might ever get to have. So
Petra takes in a really deep breath on that one.
she can see Lita tear up just a little bit. She quickly wipes away any tears.
Petra will scoot over and just rest her head against Lita's chest.
She pets her hair, holds her. So whether we want to admit it or not, we kind of need each other. So I'm here for you, even if you frustrate me sometimes.
That's what Gaia put me on this planet for.
If you weren't frustrating, I would say that you were born in the wrong hospice.
Petra smirks. Do you think there's something, a favor I might ask?
Of course.
I'd like to get to know some of the accomplished archers of our tribe.
She nods. Okay.
I'm not much of
I can.
not much of a hand-to-hand fighter. Halfway decent with a weapon in hand, but I know where my strengths are.
Of course. I will see what I can find out and who I can get to visit.
Petra will sit up with a smile. Well, I hadn't planned on going back to set this evening or doing anything.
What do you want to do?
We don't have enough people to play Risk.
No.
I could stand to go for a run.
She nods. Yeah. A run sounds good. Should probably run off some of my energy. She just kind of shakes her head. She'll gently move her off her lap, stand up, and hold her hand out.
She'll take the hand and get herself up to her feet, and she walks over and puts on her trainers. And as she stands by the door, she opens it, and she gives just this really warm smile. And then, by the way, ran out of fabric softener before I got to your sheets, and out the door at full speed.
It takes her a second to register that, and then she's like, "Oh, the static cling is gonna be so bad." And she like kind of growls and takes off after her. and I think with that we can end our scene.
Yes.
Thank you, player, for playing, and thank you, watchers, for watching. We will see you next time. Bye.